Okay. Huh? Okay, let's start a chapter. We were discussing about taxonomic aids, and we have talked about botanical gardens and zoological parks. I think, did we speak about zoological parks? No. Only botanical garden. Botanical garden we have started with, we have completed that, and we have started with herbarium also, right? So herbarium, almost all the informations we have written, we have talked about the last part, or that is called as type species, right? Yeah. Certain other terms related with herbarium. Tateo ki hoise je we have already written the note, right? As far as holotype, isotype and everything is concerned. Aji okkoman easier ke ekin likhi loba. We were discussing about type specimen, and the first word that we have talked about was a holotype. Holotype or key word monte ase? What is a holotype? The first form, or we can always use this word, the original. Original plant or juntu bonaise. Now, just don't read it like this, that the original plant is called as holotype. Okay, so the original plant, the first the herbarium that was made was called as holotype. And what was the size? Holotype or size kiman asile herbarium or 16 and a half and 11 and a half. Yeah. Isotype, the duplicate copy was called as isotype. Now, when is a isotype made? In presence of the holotype, in absence of the holotype? In presence of the holotype. Right? So, original is holotype, duplicate is isotype. If the original plant gets lost or the holotype also get lost, if you make one sheet, that is called as neotype. If you make many sheets, it is called as syntype, right? Paratype, paratype ki hoy. What is paratype? The easier way to understand is you go to a field, you discover a plant, you want to make a herbarium. Now going to a field and just collecting one plant, right? You might be thinking, why should I collect one plant? I can make herbarium from other plants also in the same habitat, right? So that is what is called as paratype. Okol eral gosore herbarium bonam niki usor to aru ase no related tahatoru bonai disu. Tel tak ami ki boli kom paratype. Is the point here? So this is all about herbarium. After completing this one, we will go to the next taxonomic aid. If this is over, next likhiba keys, Keys. Oda note to likhi lo. Okay, so the next taxonomic aid is called as key. What is a key? It is nothing but collection of statements, right? When you go for identifying an organism, what you can do is, there are certain keys that are found, and looking at the keys or studying that keys, you can identify the organism. As I said, what is a key? A key contains only certain information. Suppose you go to a field, you identify an organism. The first point that you will think about is whether it's a plant or it's an animal. Right. The next point may be, if it is a plant, then whether it is autotroph or heterotroph, right. Certain things or certain collections of statements is called as a key, right. Choosing that statements or choosing some statements from that collection give us an idea about the organism. বুজি পাইছো, right? বহুত গিটা information বা দুটা information এটা পইণ্টত লিখা থাকিব, that point is called as a key. Right. Now, if you get the answer of one key, we can go to the next key. If you get the answer of the next key, we can go to the third key, and similarly, after completion of the study, we get all the information about the organism. One example I have given, but not necessarily you have to by heart this example. This is just to understand. Another way of another example could be, as I said, you go to the field, then you identify an organism, and the first key could be moving. Suppose you go to the field, you identify organism A. The first point that you study right. So, first question ahibo no, it could move or it cannot move, right. Out of these two statements, it's not like this that you will be choosing both, right. Kiba eta he choose koriba, either it can move or it cannot move. Suppose it cannot move, then right, then animal is the normal thing that we talk about, right. So, suppose this is key number 1. After this, once you have identified that plant, that organism to be a plant, the next key could be that organism could make their own food, could not make their own food, right. Out of these two statements, either you will choose one, obviously you will not choose both. So, if the organism is a plant, the next key, once you are done with the first key, you go to the next key. After the second key, you go to the third key, etc., etc. And out of the keys, what you do is, you generally choose one statement, and generally it has key duta contrasting characters. Now, it is not like this that each and every statement or each and every key will have just two contrasting characters. The common type of a key that we take as a help is something called as a couplet. There are certain keys that contains many informations together, and there are certain keys that contains a pair only, right. So, kisuman key matro pair thakibo, pair tot ki thakibo, it's easy to identify, no, because it's opposite. Just eta choose korim eta will not consider, right. But obviously there are certain keys jot niki you have many sentences together, and out of all the sentences you have to choose few, right. So, there are two types of key we will be discussing. I think this is clear. Obviously he hobo jetia he hobo te tumi you identify the organism. হয় নহয়. So, তুমি কিবা এটা তো গম পাবা ন, এই কীবিলাক পঢ়িছা কিয় কাৰণে, যাতে you know about the organism. Once you complete all the keys, you know what the organism is, right. Okay, next, from the entire portion that I have written, from exam point of view, the question has been asked only about these two words. What is a couplet? What is a lead? Our target maximum question has been asked about a couplet. What is a couplet? A key that contains a pair of contrasting characters is called as a couplet. What will you do with that? You will choose one, you will reject one. Once you are done with key 1, you go to the key 2. Again, key 2 will have a pair of statements, you select one, you reject one, and this is how the study goes on, right. And one statement of a couplet is called as key lead. It's point clear. So, entrance pointer, এই দুটা wordৰ question আহিছে বেছিকে. এতিয়াও আৰু অকমান জানিব লাগিব. So what is a key? It is nothing but a collection of informations in the form of many statements or in the form of two contrasting statements, right? So if the key contains a lot of statements together and you have to choose between them, it is called as indented key. And if the key has just a pair of statements, then that is called as a bracketed key. As far as these two keys is concerned, from taxonomic point of view, which key would be easier and which key would be more useful for taxonomic studies? Obviously the bracketed key, right? So bracketed key always makes taxonomic studies easier, right? So hetur pra iman details ot nahe, ei duta ahibo aru maximum ahibo pare je which key makes taxonomic studies easier. A bracketed key always makes the study easier. Is the point here? So this is all about. So you can just write down that line, right? Bracketed key makes taxonomic studies easier. কারণ বহুত ইনফরমেশন থাকিলে কন্ট্রাস্টিং হলে তো বিরাটে ভাল ন, এটা একসেপ্ট কৰিলে এটা ৰিজেক্ট কৰিলে এটা একসেপ্ট কৰিলে এটা ৰিজেক্ট কৰিলে, কিন্তু বহুত স্টেটমেন্টস থাকিলে কি হ'ব, ইউ মাইট গেট কনফিউজড, ৰাইট? সো দিস ইজ অল এবাউট কি, তাতকৈ বেছি ডিটেইলছ আৰু অহা নাই। So this is about key. Next, write number 4, zoological park বুলি লিখা। No doubt we have written everything, but what is important, just this word. And baki eko poriboi nalage, right? Baki ji ahe kintu ame GK point of view we can just write anything, right? What is the importance of a Jew or importance of a Jew, at least ji mon jay take likhi dibo pura. From examination point of view, ex situ conservation. As far as the examples are concerned, tar upor to question aha nai, right? Next. Ex situ conservation. Last class or koisilo niki botanical garden is also a means of ex situ conservation. Koisilo? Ex situ conservation, what we remember? That you conserve the organism in its natural habitat or far away. Obviously far away, right? So that is what is called as ex situ. Next. Hol likha? Ekini hoise? Next is museum. Museum or question kiya hai? It is one place where that act as a means of conservation first. Next, conservation of living organisms, non-living, obviously non-living. So that's the second point. Third, non-living organisms in the form of what? In the form of maybe pictures, photographs, pictures, or maybe they could be preserved in jars and containers with the help of certain solutions, formaldehyde, etc. Plus we have certain insects that are preserved also in insect boxes. We have skeletons also, we have stuffed animals also, etc., etc. So question ki ahibo? The living and non-living conservation, obviously non-living. Second is maybe the question could be asked, how is an insect conserved in a museum? In insect boxes, right? think there was a question was asked about this. So, it was question I select and my answer to directly likhai disu. Right? So, preserve kaka kore many type of specimen. When we talk about specimens, specimens might include what? It could include part of a plant, it could include a seed, it could include a flower, etc., right? So, if you talk about maybe if you talk about a cone tree or you talk about a pine tree, pine bilakor ki thake cone thake no, hey cone to preserve koribo lagibo, and how do you preserve it in a jar or container with the help of certain solutions, right? So, next insects as a large animals, skeletons, and even certain types of plants. Generally when we talk about plants, we remember botanical garden, we remember herbarium, but there are certain plants that cannot be put into a herbarium because of their water content. If you talk about algae, and also because of their size. If you talk about algae, if you talk about fungi, they are very small, right? It's not possible to collect one at a time and preserve it in a sheet of paper. So, in that case what you do is you go for preserving in this form. Right?
And can you tell some of the uses of
formaldehyde solutions? Some from experiment point of view, from chemistry point of view, obviously many type of experiments, but generally it is used as a preserving solution. And latest news to janai sake. What is the latest news that's coming out? News soa jano. Fish and formaldehyde, right? Like all the fishes that come from the other parts of the country, right? So, they have to be preserved. Morata bostu you cannot be eating it up, right? So, they are preserved in formaldehyde. Second point, excessive amount of formaldehyde is very, very harmful. Next point. So many museums, but not important from examination point of view. Just for the sake of writing a note, we are writing it down so that if at all a question comes, you cannot say that ma'am did not give, right? That is just to be on the safe side. But Iman, looking into like years of question papers, specific any museum or specific jewel ketya question ahane. Botanical garden, however, that Kolkata Botanical Garden ketya question kudi go pare, right? And finally, we have the last one. Yes, the last taxonomic aid in the form of certain books, right? So, writing. It is very whole certain books bully heading korba. That will be number 6, I think. From museum point of view, those few points and this line is important. Actually, it's not a right way to write books, right? Instead, we have certain terms like flora, manual, etc. But however, we know everything is nothing but a book itself. You know, I mean, generally book puli no. If you have to refer it, we'll use the word flora, or we'll use the word manual, or we'll use the word called as catalog, etc. etc. You know, key hoy book se to hoy, right? Let's write the note first and what are the points that are important or how we'll study COESO. William Roxburgh কোন আছিলে? Very good. So generally questions about the examples has not been asked. However, number one we'll study, right, Flora of British India. And what is flora is nothing but a book that contains all the names of all the plant species in a particular area. So obviously eta jega jiman bilak ase, if all the names are present in a particular book, that book would obviously be a big one, right? So what is the word that is important is actual account. So from this section questions has been asked about each and every book. So whenever a question is asked about flora, only thing that you have to do is you have to search for this word, right? From both's point of view, obviously you have to by heart the statement, kintu from entrance point of view baki sob pahorilo actual account thaka book khon flora, because that word would always be present. And as far as the meaning is concerned, I think we understood by the statement itself, right? So flora of British India, now we can write flora of India because British treaty nai. So all the plant species present in India at the time of British included in one particular book, and that book is called as a flora. What did it contain? All the information about that plant, right? Name, description, etc., etc. Name of the plant, name of the book and the author, মুখস্থ কৰিব নালাগে. Bailey, B-A-I-L-E-Y. Hey, pani bottle to say? Exactly. Bisleri se likha nahi. What is the topic of discussion? Discussion is about monograph ne pani bottle. More concerned, no? Pani bottle is very important. No, the students are so good, no? In a botany class, instead of discussing this, we are discussing water bottles now. So nice. Ki hol? Hey Prabhu, continue koriye asa. Piasiya laise di pani khai lua. Ne moye khwai dilu pani ekdom likhai mane e manhe koi ne pani khwai dise kosto di he tenuka hoise aru. Exactly. Okay, from this part as a taxonomic aid, we have talked about words called as flora, manual, monograph and catalog, right? Now, what is the point of difference between them? It is just one word that you will study. If you talk about flora, amar ki mon ase? Actual account, right? Talking about a manual also it's a book that contains all the information of all the plants growing in that particular area, but all the information is in the form of key list. You go to a market, you know that you have to buy things. What you can do is you can make a list 1, 2, 3, 4 ke likha. Jedi properly 1, 2, 3, 4 ke likha ase in the form of a list, that book would be called as a manual. Jedi listing kora nai, any dia ase, that would be called as a flora. Is the point understood? So from that part, in the form of a list is a word that is important. Next, coming to this word called as monograph. However, all these are not important. Talking about this word called as monograph, as a name such as mono means single, right? We are talking about just one taxon. One example has been given about a book that has been written only about a particular genus, that is genus Pinus. Not necessary, each and every monograph would be regarding genus itself. It could be regarding a family also. A book on maybe Malvaceae, a book on a family called as Solanaceae. Eta bostu, eta topic of study kori pelai, hetur upor jodi ekhon kitab likha, right? That would be called as a monograph, right? We have used a word called as taxon. What is a taxon? I think we know now. What is a taxon? A unit of classification is called as a taxon, right? Okay. Next, finally, we have a catalog. What is the basic similarity between catalog and manual? Both contains information about all the plant species in a particular area itself, but in the form of a list, in the form of alphabetical arrangement, right? So, these are the words that you remember, and this is all about this part. Right? So, finally, I think we have completed this chapter. So, this is all about this. However, kiba important points asadi I'll just go through. And in the meantime, kiba doubts asadi swa. Just clear up your doubts, or else we can practice certain questions. We are not going to start the second chapter today. Next class we'll start it, okay? Mirov. Empty Mirov. M-I-R-O-V. Kiba doubts asani swa, more questions bisaru. I got a good question. No. One family, single family, single class, single family, single order. It should be about a single one. Then only we'll be using the word called as mono. Mono means one, right? One taxon or single no. Taxon to one a hoy. Okay, one taxon or a single, yeah. Okay. At a family is a taxon. Family because you have so many families, one family you read a book about. Okay, give a doubts of any case. কি হ'ব মই ডাউটছ বিচাৰিব দিছোঁ ন আৰু মানে ভূমিকম্প কিবা বেইলি ৱাটাৰ মাই গড মানে 10তকৈ ক্লাছ 10তকৈ ডাঙৰেই হোৱা নাই ন সৰুৱে হৈ আছোঁ মানে 10 ৰিজাল্ট দিয়া নাই যে ইউ আৰ জাষ্ট 9 পাছ অভিয়াছলি বৰ্ডছৰ ৰিজাল্ট দিলে নেকি নাই দিয়া চ' তোমালোকৰ কোৱালিফিকেশ্যন কি 9 পাছ না 11 না 10 ইউ আৰ জাষ্ট 9 পাছ চ' ইউৰ বিহেভিয়াৰ ইজ লাইক দেট right result diar pisot everyone will become very serious when you are 10 I mean 10 plus not etia and 9 plus ki koriba kids han hoy keta dibo result sure second week hole to hey 15 16 sunday nige tuesday এবাৰ 5th বুলি ক'লে ন এবাৰ 5th ক'লে এবাৰ 7th ক'লে এবাৰ 7 তাৰিখ ক'লে এবাৰ 16 নালাগে ৰিজাল্ট লৈ কি কৰিবা what will you do সদায় হ'ব নালাগে neighbors they will just poke in first that's all that is the effect of a result what will you do with the result nothing খালি it will give a chance for your neighbors to speak upon কিমান পালা এটোহে হ'ল নেকি so like it's you don't want the result ekko dokar nai I know I can understand it very well because you have that phase of neighbors and your cousins and everyone coming to your house and say no at a gift lo hai no at a chocolate but a box something or at a pay to come I think I should switch off the recording at least. Okay, since we have finished completed the lesson, we can just wind off.